In the heart of Nyasaland, where the streets hum with life and the markets overflow with color, a young girl named Masego is the talk of the town. Her beauty is unmatched. Smooth skin like rich mahogany, deep brown eyes that sparkle like the night sky, and a smile that could warm the coldest hearts. People stop and stare when she walks by, whispering about how she looks like a goddess. But beauty can be a blessing or a curse. Masego's mother died when she was just a baby, leaving her in the care of her loving father, Baba Themba. He tried his best to raise her alone, but soon remarried a woman named Mama Sanyu. To the outside world, Mama Sanyu appeared kind and caring, but in truth, her heart was filled with poison. She despised Masego, not for anything she had done, but simply because of how beautiful she was. Masego also had a stepsister, Zalira, who shared her mother's bitterness. Unlike Masego, Zalira was plain-looking and often ignored by suitors and strangers alike. Every time someone praised Masego's beauty, Zalira's face twisted with envy. Mama Sanyu could not hide her hatred. Her words were sharp as knives. "You think your beauty will take you far," she spat one evening, watching Masego help with the household chores. "You are nothing." Masego lowered her gaze, swallowing the pain. No matter how hard she tried to win her stepmother's love, it was never enough. But she had no idea how far Mama Sanyu's cruelty would go. One night, as the crickets sang outside and the rest of the world slept peacefully, Mama Sanyu sat in the kitchen, her eyes dark with wicked thoughts. "This girl must be stopped," she muttered, gripping Zalira's hand. "If she stays beautiful, she will take everything from you, your future, your chances, your place in this family." Zalira hesitated for a moment, but jealousy clouded her heart. "What do we do?" Mama Sanyu's lips curled into a cruel smile. "We take away what makes her special." They waited until the house was silent, until Baba Themba was fast asleep. Then, in the dead of night, they heated a pot of oil over the fire, watching as it bubbled and sizzled. The flames danced like demons, eager for destruction. Holding the pot carefully, Mama Sanyu crept into Masego's room. The girl lay peacefully, unaware of the horror about to unfold. Then, without hesitation, Mama Sanyu tilted the pot. The scorching oil spilled onto Masego's face. A blood-curdling scream shattered the night. Masego shot up, clutching her burning skin, her cries filled with agony. The pain was unbearable, like fire eating her alive. She fell off the bed, writhing on the floor, sobbing. Mama Sanyu and Zalira watched, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "Now, let's see if they still call you beautiful," Mama Sanyu whispered. Baba Themba rushed into the room, his face pale with shock. "What happened?" Mama Sanyu wiped fake tears from her eyes. "She knocked over the pot in her sleep, my love. It was an accident." Baba Themba knelt beside Masego, his hands trembling. His daughter, his beautiful, radiant daughter, was unrecognizable. Her face was blistered, the skin peeling away in places, leaving raw, angry wounds. He couldn't bear it. The sight was too much. The pain in her eyes was too much. And so, instead of protecting her, instead of fighting for her, he made a terrible decision. The next morning, he sent her away to a remote village. Masego, still weak and in pain, was placed in a cart and taken far from home, her father's last words echoing in her ears. "This is for the best." As the cart rolled away, dust rising behind it, Mama Sanyu and Zalira stood in the doorway, watching. Their plan had worked, or so they thought. The journey to Kasimba was long and painful. Masego sat in the back of a wooden cart, her face wrapped in cloth, hiding the burns that still throbbed with pain. The villagers who passed by stared at her with curiosity and fear. She was no longer the beautiful girl everyone admired. She was a scarred stranger, abandoned and forgotten. When she arrived in Kasimba, she quickly realized this place was not a home. It was a poor village, filled with crumbling huts and dusty roads. The people were rough, hardened by struggle, and they had little patience for outsiders, especially one like her. The moment she stepped out of the cart, whispers spread like wildfire. "Who is she? Look at her face! Cursed? She must have done something terrible to deserve that." The children were the worst. They would point at her and run away, screaming as if she were a monster. Some even threw small stones at her, laughing cruelly. Masego tried to ignore them, but every whisper, every stare, every insult felt like another wound on her soul. She kept her face covered with a veil, never looking anyone in the eye. At night, when the village was silent, She would sit alone in her small, dark hut and cry. She had lost everything: her home, her father, her beauty. She had no one. The only thing she had left was the question that haunted her every night. Why? Why had life been so cruel? Why had her father abandoned her? Why did she have to suffer? She avoided mirrors, too afraid to see what had become of her. The one time she caught her reflection in a bucket of water, she recoiled in horror. The once smooth skin of her face was now rough and uneven, marked with deep scars. Her beauty, the one thing everyone loved about her, was gone forever. She pulled the veil tighter and vowed never to look again. Then, one day, everything changed. A stranger arrived in Kasimba. He was different from the villagers, tall, well-dressed, and kind. His name was Dr. Kwame, a traveling doctor who went from place to place, helping those in need. He noticed Masego immediately. Unlike the others, he didn't stare at her with fear or disgust. Instead, he saw something else: pain, sadness, but also strength. He approached her gently. "What is your name?" She hesitated. No one had asked her that in a long time. "Masego," she whispered. Dr. Kwame smiled warmly. "That's a beautiful name." Masego looked away. "Not anymore." He sat beside her. "Your scars do not define you." She let out a bitter laugh. "Look at me. No one will ever love me." Dr. Kwame was silent for a moment. Then he studied her scars closely. He didn't flinch, didn't pity her. Finally, he said, "I know someone who can help you." Masego frowned. "No one can help me." "I believe differently," Dr. Kwame said. "If you are willing, I can take you to Lumbashi." Masego had heard of Lumbashi before. It was called the City of Miracles, a place where anything was possible, but she had long stopped believing in miracles. Still, what did she have to lose? With nothing left for her in Kasimba, she agreed. Dr. Kwame took her on a long journey to Lumbashi. For the first time in years, she felt a small flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this was her chance to start over. When they arrived, the city was bigger and brighter than anything she had ever seen. The streets were alive with people, the buildings tall and grand, and in the middle of it all was a man who would change her life forever, Dr. Zuberi. He was a world-famous plastic surgeon, known for doing the impossible. When he saw Masego, he didn't see a ruined girl. He saw a challenge, a chance to bring someone back to life. "If you are willing to fight," Dr. Zuberi told her, "I can restore your face." Masego hesitated. She had suffered so much already. Would she be able to endure more pain? But then she thought of Mama Sanyu. She thought of Zalira. They wanted her broken, hidden away, forgotten. Number she would not let them win. With determination in her heart, she lifted her veil and met Dr. Zuberi's gaze. "I'm ready." And with that, she stepped into a new chapter of her life. The first surgery was the hardest. Masego lay on the hospital bed, her heart pounding as Dr. Zuberi and his team prepared for the procedure. The bright lights above her felt blinding, and the cold air in the operating room sent shivers down her spine. She wanted to run, to hide, but there was no turning back. "Are you ready?" Dr. Zuberi asked, his voice calm. She swallowed hard. "Yes." As the anesthesia took over, her world faded into darkness. The road to recovery was long and painful. The surgeries were not just one or two, there were many. Each time Masego would wake up feeling sore, her face wrapped in bandages, unable to move or speak properly. The pain was unbearable, but she endured it all. Dr. Kwame was always there, encouraging her. "You are stronger than you think, Masego. True beauty is not just on the outside, it is in your strength, your heart, your will to rise again." But some days, she felt like giving up. One night, she sat by the hospital window, staring at the city lights. "What if I never look normal again?" she whispered. Dr. Kwame smiled gently. "Then you will be extraordinary instead." Months passed, and slowly her scars began to heal. The mirror, once her worst enemy, now became her friend. The day finally came when Dr. Zuberi removed the last bandage. Masego took a deep breath and looked into the mirror for the first time in years. She gasped. The girl staring back at her was stunning. Her skin was smooth, her features refined. She was not just beautiful, she was radiant. Tears filled her eyes. She had been broken, abandoned, left to rot in the shadows, and yet here she was, reborn. But Masego's transformation was not just physical. During her recovery, she discovered something unexpected: her love for fashion. She spent hours sketching designs, creating bold and unique outfits. One day, while trying on a dress in front of the mirror, she struck a pose and smiled. She looked powerful, confident, unstoppable. "You have a gift," Dr. Kwame told her. You should share it with the world. That was when she heard about Miss Lumbashi, the biggest beauty pageant in the country. It was more than just a competition. It was a symbol of strength, elegance, and confidence. Masego hesitated. Could she really stand on a stage in front of thousands after everything she had been through? She thought of Mama Sanyu and Zalera. They wanted her to disappear. She would rise. With Dr. Kwame and Dr. Zuberi supporting her, she entered the competition. The moment she walked onto the stage, the audience gasped. They whispered in awe, unable to believe the transformation. Round after round, she dazzled the judges, not just with her beauty, but with her confidence, her grace, her undeniable presence. And then, the final moment arrived. The announcer opened the envelope, took a deep breath, and smiled. The winner of Miss Lumbashi is Masego. The crowd erupted in cheers. Tears streamed down her face as the crown was placed on her head. She had gone from an abandoned girl in a poor village to the Queen of Lumbashi, and this was only the beginning. The victory changed everything. Masego, once a girl hidden behind a veil, was now a national icon. Magazines featured her on their covers. TV hosts begged for interviews. Designers wanted her to wear their creations. The girl once called cursed had become the most admired woman in the country. One morning, as she sipped tea by her balcony, an envelope arrived, a formal invitation. You are cordially invited to the grand charity gala in Nyasaland. Masego froze. Nyasaland, her home. She had vowed never to return, yet something inside her stirred. She had left that place broken. Now she would return as a queen. When the day came, she stepped out of a sleek black car in a flowing golden gown. Flashing cameras lit up the night as reporters scrambled for a picture. Gasps filled the air as she walked into the grand ballroom, her presence commanding the room. Inside, Mama Sanyu and Zalera stood among the wealthy guests, laughing and mingling. They were respected, admired. To them, Masego was just a ghost from the past. Until she walked in, the room fell silent. Mama Sanyu turned, her smile vanishing. Her face went pale. It can't be, she whispered, gripping Zalira's arm. Zalira blinked, her confidence shattering. How? You were ruined. Masego tilted her head, a slow smile spreading across her lips. Oh, but I wasn't. You see, you tried to destroy me, but all you did was make me stronger. Her voice carried through the room. Guests murmured, their curiosity growing. Mama Sanyu forced a laugh. Nonsense! This girl is an imposter. Masego stepped closer, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Shall I remind you? She said, her voice calm but sharp. That night, when you grabbed the hot iron, when you pressed it against my face. Gasps echoed through the hall. All eyes turned to Mama Sanyu. A journalist whispered, Is it true? Mama Sanyu stammered, I never… But Masego wasn't done. You burned me because you feared I was more beautiful than your own daughter. You locked me away. You called me cursed. And when you thought I was gone, you laughed. Baba Themba, who had been standing at the back, stumbled forward. His face was drained of colour, his hands trembling. No, it can't be. Masego. She turned to him, her eyes unreadable. You abandoned me, she said. You believed her lies. Tears welled in his eyes. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. Silence filled the room. Mama Sanyu's perfect reputation crumbled before her eyes. Guests whispered, their admiration turning to disgust. A woman in a red dress sneered, She's a monster. Another added, How could she do that to a child? Mama Sanyu's hands shook. Wait, you must understand, But no one was listening. Zalira grabbed her mother's hand. Mama, do something. But there was nothing to be done. Baba Themba, his face filled with regret, sank into a chair, covering his face with his hands. What have I done? Masego watched him for a moment. Then she took a deep breath. I forgive you, she said softly. His head snapped up. Tears streamed down his face. But, she continued, turning to Mama Sanyu and Zalira, I will never allow you back into my life. Mama Sanyu fell to her knees, pleading, Masego, please. But Masego simply smiled. You no longer have power over me. And with that, she turned and walked away, leaving them behind. She was no longer a victim. She was no longer the cursed girl. She was Masego, the Queen of Lumbashi. The world no longer saw her as the broken girl from Kasimba. She was now a force, a warrior, a queen. With her newfound fame, Masego refused to bask in luxury while others suffered. She knew what it felt like to be abandoned, to be mocked, to be called a curse. She would not let others go through the same. She launched the Phoenix Foundation, an organization dedicated to helping burn victims, especially young girls who had been scarred by cruelty, fate, or both. She visited hospitals, holding the hands of children who hid their faces just as she once had. "You are not your scars," she told them. "You are your strength." Surgeons who had once restored her beauty now worked for her, giving hope to those who had none. Her story spread across the world, inspiring millions. TV hosts wept as they interviewed her. Survivors sent letters, calling her their hero. She was no longer just a model, she was a symbol. One evening, as she sat in her office, an email arrived. "Congratulations, Masego. You have been selected to compete in Miss Africa." She stared at the screen, her heart pounding. She had won Miss Lumbashi, but this was something bigger. A chance to prove that true beauty was not just skin deep. The competition was fierce. Women from across the continent, each breathtaking in their own way, stood beside her. Some whispered about her past. Some doubted her worth. But when she stepped onto the stage in the final round, dressed in a gown that shimmered like gold, the entire world held its breath. The host turned to her. "Masego, you have faced unimaginable pain. What message do you have for the world?" The crowd fell silent. The cameras zoomed in. Masego lifted her chin. "They tried to take my beauty," she said, her voice strong, "but they could never take my spirit." A moment of silence, then applause. Thunderous, deafening. A roar of voices cheering her name. Tears welled in her eyes, but she did not cry, not yet. The envelope was opened, the name was read, and the winner of Miss Africa is Masego. The crown was placed on her head, the golden sash draped over her shoulder. The weight of the moment crushed her chest, but this time it was not pain, it was victory. As the cameras flashed and confetti rained down, Masego knew she had won more than a title. She had reclaimed her life. She had become the queen she was always meant to be. Masego rose from the ashes and became a queen. What's stopping you from claiming your own throne? Like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that ignite the fire within.